Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 28 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have 5 sections that we'll get into, a general overview of the NBA this week, and our usual highlight, lowlight, random stat, and game of the week. Let's get to our content for the week. The NBA has begun announcing the winners of major awards. The 65-game minimum certainly has made people unhappy, but the show must go on. Philadelphia 76ers star Tyrese Maxey was named the Most Improved Player. He won the award over Chicago's Kobe White and Houston's Alperen Şengün. Naz Reid of the Minnesota Timberwolves took home 6th Man of the Year over Milwaukee's Bobby Portis and Sacramento's Malik Monk. Golden State Warriors star Stephen Curry won Clutch Player of the Year over Chicago's DeMar DeRozan and Oklahoma City's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And Oklahoma City Thunder head coach Mark Daigneault won Coach of the Year. He took home those honors over Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch and Orlando Magic head coach Jamal Mosley. Awards like MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Rookie of the Year are still to be determined. Also, Jusuf Nurkić, brother of Denver Nuggets superstar Nikola Jokic, might be in some trouble after Game 2 of the Nuggets-Lakers series last Monday. TMZ video caught Jusuf in a confrontation with a fan, and Jusuf appears to punch the fan in the face. The NBA and Denver police are investigating the matter. As of right now, Denver police are saying that no one has come forward as a victim. They added that they are investigating and encouraged any witnesses to come forward. This episode is entitled The Long and Winding Road. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? Let's go to our highlight, the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves are on a rampage to start the 2024 NBA playoffs. Minnesota swept the Phoenix Suns in the 3-6 Western Conference matchup. Each game was decided by an average of 15 points, with the biggest one being a 25-point win, specifically 120-95 for the Timberwolves in Game 1. In this series, Anthony Edwards averaged 31 points, 8 rebounds, 6.3 assists, and 2 steals per game. Rudy Gobert has made solid plays for Minnesota. Not only is he getting double-doubles and playing tough defense, he's also hitting free throws. For a guy who hovered around 60% for the regular season, he has hit 22 of 25 this postseason, or 88%. Naz Reid, who was recently named 6th Man of the Year, has been getting buckets off the bench. Minnesota is on their way to the conference semifinals for the first time since, get ready for this one, 2004. It's also the first sweep in Timberwolves postseason history. It's really impressive that this young, dangerous team outplayed the Suns, aka the newest super team in the league, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. I had Minnesota in 6 in my playoff bracket, but good for them for proving me wrong. They will face either the Nuggets or the Lakers in the Western Conference semifinals. Let's go to our lowlight, the LA Lakers. Oh my, are things heading in the wrong direction for the LA Lakers. The Lakers are down 3-1 in their first round series with the Denver Nuggets. By defeating the New Orleans Pelicans in the play-in tournament in the 7-8 seed matchup, LA drew the short stick by facing the defending champions. While games 1 and 3 were won by multiple possessions, the Lakers had game 2 handed to them on a platter. LeBron James had a wide open 3 at the end of the game, which would have given LA a 3-point lead with the shot clock turned off. Denver's Jamal Murray proceeded to hit the buzzer beater over Anthony Davis. Davis has said recently that he's the best defensive player in the NBA. That certainly didn't backfire on him. With a 3-1 deficit in hand, this marks LA's first win against Denver after losing the last 11. 11. The Nuggets swept LA in the Western Conference Finals last season en route to a ring. Now it could be a 5-game series. D'Angelo Russell faced scrutiny in the critical Game 3 after his 0 for 7 performance and for sitting away from the team on the bench as the Lakers were talking in a timeout. Yikes. Game 5 of this series and the potential closer is tonight, Monday, April 29th at 10 o'clock. Denver is the host. To get more insight into our lowlight this week, we have our 6th guest on Diehlman at halftime. Let's get into it. So for our 6th guest on Diehlman at halftime and for our first repeat guest, we welcome Chris DiPietro back onto the podcast. We're transitioning into the playoff editions of Diehlman at halftime, so we got exciting things ahead. Chris was the reason I got into basketball, mainly because we used to play a good amount of NBA 2K over the years, and he's
Sure
my
did.
cousin. Chris is currently a freshman at Rutgers University, New Brunswick. Chris, how are we doing today?
Larry, I'm so blessed. I'm so happy to be back on the pod to talk some hoops.
Yeah, a lot of good things as we are getting toward the end of the first round of the playoffs, roughly. Some are a little closer than others, but we'll get into that in just a second. So, Chris, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Lakers as they're facing the wrong end of a potential gentleman's sweep. So, 5 games. So for my first question, in my playoff bracket, I actually had Denver in 5. What did you have as your prediction if you had one? And was this a matchup that seemed like a candidate to end quickly?
I don't know if I exactly had a prediction for this series, but I thought there was no way that this series was going to be any variety of competitive. I mean, the Lakers, they missed the cutoff as the 6th seed. They missed that little extra bit of security. They're forced into the play-in. They win a hard-fought game versus the Pelicans. Everybody contributed. Zion had a great game, and as a basketball fan, it sucked to see him go, but they were able to capitalize on it. They squeaked out a win versus New Orleans, but at what cost? You draw the dreaded Denver matchup, who has beaten you, I think, going into the series 8 consecutive times in the regular season and going back to the sweep in last year's Western Conference final. And despite being the 2 seed, like they're one of the best teams, I'd say, in the last decade. You could argue century, you could argue all time. This team is really hard to beat, especially 4 times out of 7. And LeBron James is not at the point in his career anymore where you can say, okay, the other team has X, Y, and Z, but we have LeBron James. This is a series. It's funny how maybe the only other player in the league you can say that about right now is Nikola Jokic. And the Nuggets, they just outclass them from a coaching standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint, from a consistency standpoint. I thought there was no way that the series was going to go beyond 5 games. And, as unusual as it is, I fully expected to see LeBron kind of just get nudged out of the way by the superior team. And right now, the superior talent, Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, some good points there. Yeah, like you said, I did not expect this to go that far. The thing about the play-in tournament that I don't think we think of as often is that even if you win a game or if you get the 7 or 8 seed, you're still going up against either the top seed or the second seed in your conference. So the odds are not in your favor at all. But like you said, the dreaded Denver matchup certainly won. The Lakers probably did not won. So for my second question, in your opinion, what is it about the Nuggets that the Lakers just can't seem to overcome? Rotations, better stars, the matchup itself, and you mentioned about the losing streak. The 3-1 deficit broke the Lakers' 11-game losing streak versus Denver going back, I'd say at least last year. So what is it about this matchup that the Lakers just cannot find any luck?
I think the Nuggets, they play with such a sound structure. there's really nothing you can do to speed up or shake the rhythm of the Denver Nuggets. They get consistent elite play all down the roster. Jokic is the best player in the series. That's not a debate. Him and Murray, they're a perfect marriage. They work great together, and they're surrounded by high-level shooters, high-level defenders, guys with basketball IQ. It doesn't really seem like anyone in that rotation makes a bad play. There's really nothing comparable with the Nuggets to what Lakers fans probably feel like when they see, oh man, we already got Taurean Prince in the game, and here comes Spencer Dinwiddie. The Nuggets can execute you to death in a multitude of different ways. Whereas with the Lakers, it kind of feels like the only way you can scrape out a win is if you continue to hit shots into the second half, which has been a problem for them, and also limit everyone else around Jokic because you are not going to limit Nikola Jokic. Um, and even then, you're probably still banking on a big game from somebody like D'Angelo Russell, which can be its own pipe dream sometimes. Um, like when the Lakers go up 20, you're sitting there thinking, okay, this still might be a game. When the Lakers are up 10, you're thinking, all right, man, Denver might have them right where they want them. And, if Denver's on and they take a lead, it feels like the game is over. It's a stylistic matchup that Denver has the defiant advantage in. Game four, everything kind of went right for LA. They avoid the sweep. They set it up for a gentleman's sweep, like you said. They break that long losing streak. But it really did watching that game feel like more of a kind of like, aha, gotcha, broke the streak, followed by nervous laughter moment rather than LA making some serious adjustment that has you thinking, oh man, if Denver doesn't respond to this, we might have a series in a game or two. It really did not feel that way at all.
Yeah, some good points there. And like you said, like the nervous laughter moment. You think about it too. Maybe the Lakers took this in-season tournament way too seriously because I mean, when the play-in tournament first started, I was a hater. I'll be honest with you. I've kind of grown up to it, like it's, oh, it makes for competitive games and stuff like that. The in-season tournament for me, I don't understand it. Like it seems like a money grab for the NBA. And when you win the in-season tournament, it's like, okay, you won some money, the young players get a chance, at an extra bonus. But at the end of the day, it's nothing to say, oh boy, yep, LeBron won an in-season tournament. MJ could never, hashtag fraud. Like, it
Right.
just, I think maybe the Lakers took that too seriously. And now you come to the playoffs and the Nuggets are like, okay, well, time for the real playoffs or the time for the real tournament. But yeah, some good points from there. So next, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the motors of the Lakers, each have a player option for the upcoming season. D'Angelo Russell has one more year on his contract. Could we be seeing any major players moving if things go south quickly? So obviously there's the whole Bronny James could get drafted, or actually he's going to the draft, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then LeBron was saying, I'm going to go to any team Bronny goes to, but like let's say Bronny gets drafted to the Pistons. Like LeBron's not going to pick up, pack his bags and be like, yup, I'm moving to Detroit or something.
Mm.
But do you think we could see anybody on the move? Probably Russell has the greatest argument, yeah?
Yeah, well Davis is locked up for another 4. I think Russell, I think his future is murky there. But honestly, I don't know if there's going to be any external suitors for him. So it might just be one more year in LA. But LeBron's options this summer, they're numerous and they're interesting. There's the world where he thinks there's still a future with the Lakers, which I think is pretty unrealistic, and I think it'd be a pretty sad way to go out. The Lakers are far from a Zach LaVine away. I don't even think they're a Kyrie Irving away. I think Irving, James, and Davis, I mean, they probably lose in Denver to 6 rather than 5. I don't know if he quite pushes the needle. He might make some more games interesting. But this roster they have now, it's been constructed. They've spent every valuable asset they had on a depreciating one. For example, the way the Russell Westbrook trade panned out for them was pretty embarrassing. Not that I think Kyrie Irving would be Russell Westbrook, but but the point is the team's problem is not star power at the top. The team has a bad coach, they have a bad front office, they have unreliable depth, and they really have just like a kiddie pool of assets. And not a lot is going to change in a year for them to make their team a contender, make LeBron really feel like they can go win a championship. If he feels like he may only have a year or two left, I think he could opt in with the Lakers, say whatever, I'm going to go die on the battlefield. Or he could also, like you said, go play with his son, which could play out in a million different ways depending on where he goes. Something that I think he'd know if he decided to go that route, but I don't know LeBron James's priorities. If he really wants to play with his son, then I don't think that would really matter to him. But if he looks himself in the mirror and says, I really feel like I can make one more title run, realistically, he would have to leave LA, and where he'd go to compete is kind of its own question. I think a Cleveland reunion could be interesting. I think my Sixers are interesting. We're gonna have a an open max slot this offseason, but really all those options I just listed, we really don't have a great read on which one's most appealing to him right now. I think if the Lakers lose on Monday night, they go out sad in Denver, and we see LeBron maybe turn to the crowd, soak in the moment. I think something like that might get the wheel rolling. But the bottom line is the Lakers could look very different next year. And not only the roster, I think the front office could look a lot different. And I think that's their bigger problem.
Yeah, some good points there. And like you said, it's not just like, one thing can fix it. Basically, it's not, basically, right now, it's a band-aid on, like, putting a band-aid on the Titanic sinking. Like, it's going to take more than that, or
Precisely.
it's doomed from the start. So, like the front office obviously has been a little questionable at times, and just overall this team has had its moments and then had its down moments. And plus you're in the second biggest media market in the United States behind New York City. So I mean that doesn't help either. But obviously we'll see what happens with LeBron. Now you said the Sixers have a max contract slot. Now, did you or did you not say earlier today in a certain group chat that if the Sixers sign Paul George, you're going to become a Wizards fan?
Um, oh man, I may have said that, and that may or may not be true, but I will say this. If that slot ends up going to LeBron James, I instantly feel a lot more confident about my Sixers, especially them with my Sixers would be with the safe to say declining Paul George.
Okay, okay. We'll see how that works out. And then to wrap it all up, and you mentioned it just a few moments ago, depending on how the rest of this series goes, is it time for Darvin Ham to pack his bags? Ham is in his second year with the purple and gold, and many fans have, well, not been happy with him. We've seen the memes, with the cartoon character Arthur, like Darvin Ham with his hand in his pocket when the team is down by 20, and when Mike Breen gives that bang call and he does nothing, but just stand there while Mike Malone is like, I was watching the Denver game the other day. I forget which game it was. And Darvin Ham was just standing there. And then Michael Malone, even if the team's up by 10, he's like clapping his hands or like getting people to shift on defense for every
Right,
possession. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if they were up by 10 or down by 10.
right.
But what is your read on Darvin Ham? I mean, second year, but it's also Los Angeles. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty disappointed for the Lakers if Ham is back on those sidelines next year with his hands in his pockets. He made a conference final last year, but watching that run, you could tell that was far from some roster elevating coaching masterclass. It felt a lot more like LeBron, you take the wheel. AD, you pull up the map. I'm gonna sit in the back seat with my headphones in. I'm gonna ask if we're there yet. That's what it felt like. I've really seen nor heard anything encouraging from his tenure. I've seen really questionable rotations. I've seen lack of adjustment. I mean, losing 11 straight to any team is brutal, and it's especially a brutal look on the coach. I see a really bad trigger when it comes to calling challenges. Again, I see hands in the pockets. I mean, what does he even do? The Lakers feel like a team that are trending down and that really need fresh air in that front office. I think he's got to go along with the general manager, Rob Pelinka. Until they're gone, it's just really hard to trust a Lakers team.
Yeah, some good points there. Yeah, we know with all the memes with Darvin Ham and Rob Pelinka could probably see his pink slip as well. And the thing with the LA media market too, it's like there are just big shoes to fill that every time something doesn't go their way, well, Kobe would never let this happen, or, oh, geez, Magic did better than that, and he was, a rookie in the finals. I mean, yeah, it's just a bad situation, a bad roster.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, Anthony Davis has been pretty healthy all season, and
Right.
they still can't get things moving. But then again, when you have a 39-year-old LeBron as your catalyst, some nights are going to be good and some nights are not. I remember,
Hmm.
I think it was earlier in the year, and I think it was Darvin Ham or somebody was like, well, LeBron's getting up there in age, and he's not going to be playing like 30 minutes a night, and then every other night he's playing 40 minutes again. Like that's not good.
Yep.
So very interesting happenings could be on the way if the series ends in five with the Lakers and the Nuggets. The next game is in Denver for game five. So, Chris, thank you for your input and for appearing out on our podcast today.
Of course. Of
Um,
course.
we'll see how this wraps up, and maybe we'll have you back in the near future.
Yeah, appreciate it, boss.
Let's go to a random stat. Since we were talking about the Phoenix Suns' embarrassing end to the season, let's rub more salt onto the wound. Starting center Jusuf Nurkić now has a career playoff record of 3-17. It's the worst winning percentage by any player in NBA playoff history with a 20-game minimum. While one could plainly say that Nurkić is on the wrong side of history, he's been on some questionable teams. Nurkić was originally on the Denver Nuggets. He never made the playoffs with them. In 2017, he was traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. Outside of one season where Portland made the Western Conference Finals, he never got out of the first round. Fast forward to this season when he was traded to Phoenix, the Suns were swept. You would think that outside of Portland, the other teams he's been on would have some success with him on the roster. He's been the starting center for the Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker era. He was on the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic at one point before Jokic blossomed into the best player in the NBA. Heck, even in Portland, he played with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Some players run into bad luck, and some players run into the luck of Jusuf Nurkić. Finally, let's go to Game of the Week. For this week's Game of the Week, let's go with the Oklahoma City Thunder at New Orleans Pelicans. Game 4 of this series will be tonight, Monday, April 29th at 8:30 p.m. in New Orleans. The Pelicans are on the brink of elimination after a 106-85 Thunder beatdown in Game 3 on Saturday. In my playoff bracket, I had Thunder in 6. If you need a reason why this series is so lopsided, look no further than the fact that Zion Williamson has not played due to a hamstring injury. If Zion was playing, this series might not be on the verge of a sweep. The Thunder only won by 2 points in the opening game, but they've been kicking the door doors off New Orleans ever since. Zion being out of the lineup and the fact that Brandon Ingram just returned from injury not too long ago is just bad timing for New Orleans. I think Oklahoma City will end the Pelicans season tonight 114-104. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both Twitter and Instagram. My personal Twitter is @LarryDiehlman18 and my personal Instagram is @Mr_Sports18. They're also in the description on SoundCloud. And thank you to Chris DiPietro for being our guest this week on the podcast. Remember, you can follow him on Instagram @ChrisDippy. That is @ChrisDipi. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.